Wait, that's the second time I've almost done it. WLPNOP, Chicago, 105.5 FM Lumpin Radio. This is News from the Service Entrance, the radio show. My name is Mario. Thank you so much for listening today. Really appreciate you being here. I hope that your afternoon is going well. I will coin the phrase from my friend, sprinter will not go away, because it's still spring, but it still feels like winter. It's 40-something. Anyway, it's ridiculous. Joining me right now in studio, which is always nice, is Emily Williams. She is the host and creator and wonderful voice behind the Beyond Voting podcast. She's also the executive director. Still, I do believe, or you're not anymore? This information is wrong. I will not read it. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, Mario.
There's so much to talk about, including your pickleball exploits that I have not forgotten about.
Yes, that is correct.
Oh, I can't
Yes.
wait to hear this story. And there's a lot going on, clearly, in the voting stratosphere and in the political world. And I've been harping on it since I got on the air today, talking about the decision by the Supreme Court to strip away slowly but surely at the Voting Rights Act. What can you lend to this conversation about why it is important that people are really honed in on what happened yesterday with the Supreme Court?
Well, number one, we can't take for granted our right to vote, our right to elect our political representatives. I mean, that's essentially what we're doing, because if you haven't been paying attention, we can see that since this administration took office, I mean, the quality of life in the U.S. has decreased.
Mm-hmm.
Things are more expensive. People are afraid to go outside. You know, our neighbors are being rounded up. People can't even say social identities in the workplace because they're afraid of getting funding yanked or getting targeted in other ways. That's a result of this current presidential administration. And so our right to vote means that we can put people into office who actually represent our needs, who actually put policies in place that, result in the kind of world that we want to live in.
Yeah. Talk to me about the philosophy of the podcast Beyond Voting.
Yeah. So my favorite topic.
Right.
I started Beyond Voting in the run up to the 2024 elections.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I was working with students, I was working with community members, and I was hearing a lot of misgivings. I was hearing a lot of confusion about what democracy actually was. And people just had a lot of questions, and questions that weren't being addressed in the mainstream. So I said, you know what? We need to have a way to have this conversation, but have it at scale. You know, it's not a one-off conversation.
Right.
And so we started Beyond Voting to address those questions. And so season 1 was about all of the questions that were on people's minds, like, should I vote if neither candidate represents my values? What if Gaza is my primary issue? What do I do in this situation? What is the state of our social justice movements? Where are they? Are we ready?
Mm-hmm.
What is fascism, and why do I need to care about that? You know, in relation to today's topic, we also had an episode on the Supreme Court. Is it a political tool, or is it an arbiter of justice as it was originally intended?
Yeah.
And so, we addressed all of those questions in season 1, just prior to the presidential elections. And it turns out that the content resonated quite broadly. We won 3 awards: a Webby, an Anthem, a Signal Award.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a nice treble of awards there.
Yeah.
That ain't bad.
Yeah. No, we're proud of that.
Yeah.
And I think particularly for people who do this kind of work around democracy. I mean, democracy is so unsexy. Who wants to talk about democracy?
Right.
And we were talking all about democracy and social justice. And so to get that kind of recognition and to understand that we resonate broadly, it's become now a full-time mission to continue this work and to continue to get this kind of education about democracy and social justice out into the world.
We are going to kind of spray to all fields here. And folks who are listening, you heard our election night coverage. You will not be surprised to know that I've already asked if Emily can help us out in November with what's going on with some really astute and acute analysis. But we're going to do local, state, and federal. I want to talk. Yeah, I think that's the only way to do it, especially now. I want to talk about local movement building. It's funny. I'm walking this morning in Hyde Park, and I walked past the Harold Washington mural that's on 53rd Street, and I started thinking we never made an attempt, or there wasn't an attempt really made to have a air quote successor to that man and his movement. And it wasn't until many years later that people started popping up who were very much influenced by what Harold Washington did in Chicago. We have a mayoral race that it will be coming up in short order. This could be another one of those 35 people running for mayor events. I think maybe this is leaning more toward voter apathy when I ask this question, but what is it about elections in Chicago that it has to be a star event? When Obama was running for president, that was a thing. People wanted to be a part of that, and they voted. The voter apathy in the city, can you address why that is? And with an election like the mayor coming up, which is a very important election, we've seen the numbers kind of stay at they're not high, they're not low. It's a very median number for the amount of people who live in the city. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think number one, people don't always understand or feel how policy and the decisions of the mayor's office impact their lives. Or they have such a sense of, or they're so disillusioned with electoral politics that they think it doesn't actually matter whether or not they vote. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it is that Chicagoans love to hate on the mayor,
no matter who it is.
No matter who it is. And I think that also just translates to this notion that people think it just doesn't matter who they vote for. I think there's also something to the fact that we've had, almost all Democratic mayors. And so, the policies have really only varied so much between administrations. And so I think people also, we know Illinois is going to go blue. We know Chicago is a bastion of Democrats. And so I think to that extent, people also think that, things aren't going to change very much depending on who's running or who's in office. Yeah. So I'm not saying I agree with those ideas, but I think that's what gets in the way.
Do you think as well that maybe there should be a limit to the amount of people who can run for mayor? Because it muddies the water. What was the election with my buddy Amara Enya was running? Yeah. That was 13 people running for mayor at that time.
I was happy when she was running. I
was too. Very. Yeah. That's my buddy. Is this can there be some type of legislation or something that limits the amount of people who are able to run for mayor?
I don't know that I agree that we should have limits to the amount of people who can run for mayor. I think it's good that people get out there and, they build a platform, and they share these ideas. And I think, the Amara Enyas of the world, they can push some of the mainstream candidates to a more progressive end of, politics. And I think that's good.
Well, I don't mean to cut you off, but money in state, local, and federal politics, money is who's supporting you? Where are you getting your money from? Is there PAC money? How much PAC money is it? How much of your own money are you putting in? When we talk about someone like J.B. Pritzker, who has all the money and can fund his own campaign quite well. And then you have these numbers that kind of dilute the field because of people like, say, Amara Enya, who people may know but not know, but who may have something valuable to contribute to that race. How do you, maybe that's more of what I'm saying when we talk about numbers of people running.
So I think that the question then is, how do we get money out of politics?
There you go.
Because, we see that billionaires are running this country right now. We see that, who was it before J.B. Pritzker? He was a billionaire too. His name is
yes.
Him, right?
Rauner.
Yeah, exactly, yes. Rauner. So, when people can fund their own campaigns, and fund all of the publicity and get the visibility, they are going to have an unfair advantage. And so I think we do need to figure out, how do we get money out of politics? Because the more that money has been in politics, the worse things have gotten for everyday people. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that U.S. inequality has skyrocketed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that certainly has a direct link to the amount of money that is in politics and how people are able to influence policies and politics based on how much money they have.
We mentioned J.B. Pritzker. He is in the midst of running a race that he's probably going to win handily, and he may or may not have presidential aspirations. What do you think, if we could do a little forecasting, his future looks like?
Number one, this may be controversial. I don't know. I hope he does have presidential aspirations. I actually think that he probably has the best chance out of many people in this country to win the next election. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of progressive things that happen in Illinois. He has been a consistent and strong voice in opposition to Donald Trump. People respect that, and he comes off as a very nice guy, and he comes off as the kind of person who genuinely supports the kinds of policies that make life more livable for people, whether that's universal pre-K, whether that's, supporting all of these pilot basic income programs in Illinois. I mean, those things really matter to people, and those kinds of policies are only going to become more and more popular over the next several years. So I hope he does have political aspirations, because otherwise, who are we looking at?
Yeah. Well, let's say he does decide that he wants. Yeah, because you're right. Because oh boy. Let's say he does decide to run for president, which I selfishly hope he does not. I think he's the best governor Illinois has had.
Okay, I hear that, but his vice governor would be pretty good too, I think.
I think so. So. Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
And then we'd have Juliana Stratton in the Senate.
Yeah, I see that.
It could work.
All of
it
that.
could work.
It could. I do hope he just stays, because I think he's a great dude, and the conversations that I have been able to sit in a room with him in have been very interesting and very compelling, and he has a really keen sense of benevolence that most billionaires absolutely do not have.
Precisely.
That being said, though,
that's like those Midwestern values too.
Yeah,
I just want to give
exactly,
a plug
for sure.
Midwestern values.
Shout out to the great Midwest.
Okay.
Let's say he does do that, and I want to go back and ask about who do you think might be a viable mayoral candidate besides Mayor Johnson. If J.B. Pritzker decides, you know what, I'm doing it. I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. I know I just won being governor. I can always go back, but I'm gonna try to make this work and try to make it happen. And let's say that happens. He's running, and he's successful, and he does end up winning. He's the president. Who do you think, besides the lieutenant governor, who do you think would be a really solid governor for the state to kind of keep that going? Are we talking more people when that election or the special election would happen if he should win? Are we talking like who, for example, would we be talking about running
to be the next governor?
Yeah.
Other than his vice, or lieutenant, who's running with him as lieutenant? That's a really good question. I don't know. Maybe if Brandon Johnson doesn't win the mayoral race, maybe he would be the best governor.
That would be interesting. Because the way people talk about him now,
they
talk about him horribly bad.
Yeah, but I think it's unfair. I think it's unfair. I mean, so many progressives, they want somebody. We wanted Rahm out. We wanted Lori Lightfoot out. We wanted someone who was gonna be progressive, who was gonna, cater to communities who have often been ignored by the mayor of Chicago. He's done that. Mm-hmm. He's really prioritized people. He tried to tax these big corporations. Why is everybody so mad at him?
Yeah,
it's like, we wanted these things. He's been doing a really great job at the things that he said he would do. Let's give him a chance. Let's give him 8 years. Instead of what it's effectively been. I think people maybe gave him 2, and then they decided that they were done with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So. Yeah, I think we need to give him more of a chance.
We're spending a little time with Emily Williams. She is the host of the Beyond Voting podcast. And before we go into the federal part of this triumvirate, when you get wherever you get your podcast, do it. Wherever you get your shows, all right? Just lock it in. I don't even know what you do anymore. And I got a podcast.
Subscribe.
That's what they call it. Subscribe to the podcast so you can be informed and entertained too, because there's some very interesting things that they talk about on the show. Federally, Donald Jehoshaphat Trump is doing the work of know many men. I don't understand how this is happening. I just want to know, how does it end? If we're forecasting and we're talking about, and assuming that he completes his term, what would we be looking at in a couple of years for the presidential race? And not to be morbid, but do you think he's going to complete his term, or do you think he might say, you know what, I've done it, I'm done, I'm getting old, and I'm tired, and I'm out? Or is he forced out?
I think he's going to be. I think he's going to get impeached. I think the Democrats are going to win the midterms. I think they're going to impeach him. I think, his last 2 years, I think, of course, he can still do harm and do damage while he's in there for those last 2 years. But I don't think anything to the scale that he's done in these years since he was elected. As it relates to the elections, I think, unfortunately, we're going to be looking at like a J.D. Vance. And I think probably, I really would hope not, but probably like a Marco Rubio. We might even see Tulsi Gabbard come back in the mix. I mean, that's why they've gotten mixed up in this administration to begin with, is because I'm sure that, I know she has presidential aspirations as well as J.D. Vance. Right. And so, but I think, and my hope is that the country has seen enough and has had enough. And so, they will not have a chance at winning. What I am concerned about is the growing power of tech, the tech companies, tech CEOs, the tech industry. I mean, every day there's, some news report about how they've gotten more access to our data, or their surveillance has gotten even more precise. And that really scares me because, there's so much that they do that the everyday person has no knowledge of. And so how might they be able to influence things, I think is a real question.
It's WLPNOP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpin Radio. It's news from the Service Entrance Radio Show. Again, we're sitting with Emily Williams, the host of the Beyond Voting podcast. What does it mean to do something beyond your vote?
Yeah, I love that question. Well, it means that voting is the baseline in a democracy. That is the bare minimum of what you need to do politically and electorally. In addition to that, we have to be advocating for the kinds of policies that we want, for the kind of world that we want. We have to advocate for those things, which means we have to build power, which means we have to organize. A huge part of organizing is raising awareness, right? And education. We have to be talking about these political issues all of the time, right? Our lives are certainly politicized. And we also have to be building community. This notion that we can be divided, that's weakening democracy. That makes it easier for fascists to take hold. So we have to be building power. We have to be building movements. We have to take it upon ourselves to remain aware of what these politicians are doing, how they're impacting our lives. And we have to have ideas about how things can actually be better. And not just for ourselves, for the people around us as well, for our communities, and frankly, every community.
Yeah. All right. Pickleball. What the hell is going on with people fighting at pickleball? And you playing pickleball was a surprise to me. I was like, oh, this is interesting. So tell the folks the story that you told today on your socials about pickleball violence.
Right.
As I've heard pickleball referred to, white people gunfire.
Okay. Well, I think this story in this in this example might actually debunk some myths about maybe what people think about pickleball. Okay.
This is funny. Okay.
So I play pickleball. And it's actually a lot of fun. I really love it. And sometimes I get invited to play pickleball with the senior citizens.
Okay.
For those of you who are listening who don't know me, I am not anywhere near being a senior citizen.
No.
But so the last time that I went to 55 and up open play, number one, it was a great vibe. I mean, walking in, Afro beats, Afro house, people were joking around, playing, and if anybody thinks that because I'm younger than them, that I go in there and I like win every match and I'm like working them on the court, that would be incorrect. It is quite the opposite. They hand it to me.
Okay.
They hand it to me at pickleball.
Okay.
But and it also, this was at a facility on the south side, and it was quite diverse. I mean, it was like almost equal representation: Black, Asian, white, Latino. I was like, this is the vibe. Like, the senior citizens got it figured out. And after being there for about 45 minutes, there was a big fight. They got into some kind of dispute about, I don't know who won or who was supposed to play next. But next thing I know, there was about 10, 12 of them surrounding the scores table. They're yelling. I was
Pickleball.
like, whoa.
Wow.
It's any kind of competition.
I tell you, man, old. I'm old, but old people older than me, they really have no whats to give. They're like.
But I also was like, it's also about principle. Like, somebody won and somebody lost. Okay. Like, let's just get this right.
Let's get it right. Get it straight. That is interesting. Wow. I've heard a lot of things, but when I saw that today, I was like, a pickleball fight. And there you go. I didn't do this justice the first time. Emily Williams is a renowned advocate for social justice with over a decade of experience working on local and global levels to create an equitable world. She's collaborated with organizations and community stakeholders in more than 20 countries, contributing to a global treaty adopted by the UN. She has co-founded the Social Justice Initiative at the University of Illinois at Chicago, where she built the center from the ground up, combining social justice practice with intellectual inquiry. And she is the host of the Beyond Voting podcast. And you will hear her again off and on as we get up toward the election, and then on election night for the major, major special where we celebrate the end of this nonsense. Hopefully, she will be part of our broadcast as well. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yes, thank you, Mario. This was wonderful.
And thank you for sharing that old Black and Latino people like to fight at pickleball.
Oh, now see, that's not what I said.
That sounded like what you said.
See, now I gotta tell the listeners, if you want to hear the story, go to my Instagram at Miss Ems32, MSEMS32.
She did not say that at all. I said that. That's me. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you, Mario.
Really
this was wonderful.
It. Absolutely appreciate you. Thank you for coming down and seeing our studio.
It's beautiful. I love it in here.
Yeah.
What an inspiring space, well designed.
This is a very nice room.
Gotta appreciate it.
One of my favorite rooms in the city. This is I like sitting in here for 2 hours playing music and doing stuff.
It's a great vibe. It's a great vibe.
Thank you. International Jazz Day is today, and we got a lot of music to play to celebrate my friends who are performing tonight at what might be one of the biggest jazz concerts that I can remember outside of a Chicago Jazz Festival in a very, very long time. At the Lyric Opera is where it's happening tonight. And one of those folks is my man Kurt Elling. It's my boy. Big fan of his. Here's April in Paris. On the last day of April, I finally got a chance to play it. My bad, Kurt. It's WLPNOP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpin Radio. This is news from the service entrance, the radio show.